When you think about the World Cup, you'll usually visualize a marvelous and special spectacle filled with iconic moments able to withstand the test of time. It's the pinnacle of football, the sport's biggest party that makes even the people who barely care suddenly tune for a random match. But what if I told you there was once a World Cup where everything that could go wrong went wrong? In fact, this tournament was so boring that they even had to change the rules of the game. In this video, you and I will take a trip down memory lane and explore why the 1990 World Cup was so bad, and by the end of it, I'm sure you'll never complain about any international tournament in your life. So without further ado, let's get right to it. The first reason why this tournament was doomed from the start was its format. At that point, contestant nations were initially divided into 6 groups of 4, where the top 4 third-place teams would advance. This, coupled with a scoring system that awarded only 2 points for a win and 1 for a draw, created a recipe for a snooze fest, as every team aimed primarily to avoid losses. And it's not like that was a problem for the first time. Back in 1982, when the format was still the same, Austria agreed to let Germany win 1-0 so that both nations would qualify ahead of Algeria, completely risk-free. Although they made adjustments and the last matchday fixtures were now played at the same time, the fact that 16 out of 24 teams would progress made every team approach the matches in a cautious manner. For example, the Netherlands drew all 3 matches in the group stage, scored 2 goals, conceded 2, and still progressed. It was a pointless group stage without any surprise outcomes because the better teams weren't forced to take risks. Even Brazil, a nation that's well known for their positive football, could only score 4 goals in the entire group stage. But the fault isn't entirely on the attackers. In fact, another phenomenon that plagued this tournament was the unfair play by the defenders. In almost every match, the defenders would use and abuse the back pass whenever they felt under pressure, since it wasn't illegal at that point and they wouldn't hesitate to go for a hard tackle. Don't get me wrong, the refs punished them for their brute approach. 16 red cards were handed out during Italia 90, and for a while, this tournament held the record for the biggest number of send-offs in World Cup history. But hey, we can't discuss the 1990 World Cup group stage without mentioning the most intriguingly boring group in the history of the sport. England, Republic of Ireland, the Netherlands, and Egypt. First of all, there are 3 European nations in the group, something that doesn't happen anymore, but it's understandable since 14 out of 24 teams were European. But that's far from the weirdest thing. In the first 4 matches of the group, all teams had drawn their games, and all of them had the same record of 2 points, 1 goal for, and 1 goal against. England would win their last match against Egypt 1-0 and top the group, while the Netherlands and the Republic of Ireland would draw again and still finish with the exact same record. Nothing separated the 2 nations, so they had to draw lots to see who would finish second and third, and the Republic of Ireland were clearly the luckiest out of the 2. Facing Romania in the round of 16, while the Netherlands would have to face their eternal rivals, West Germany. Okay, I think I've made it pretty clear that the group stage was terrible, but things would have to get better in the knockout rounds, right? Well, if you're one of those people who just wanna watch the world burn, I think this knockout stage is definitely for you. For starters, Argentina won the match against Brazil thanks to a great run through the Brazilian defense by Claudio Canidia. Let's just all forget that various years later Maradona would admit on TV that he had spiked Brazil's left back Branco's bottle with tranquilizers. Then you had another stellar matchup, Netherlands vs West Germany, a huge rivalry in itself, but considering that many players were applying their trade in Milan, it almost felt like a little sample of the Derby della Madonnina. It had everything to be a classic for the ages, but the Netherlands were nowhere near their levels from 2 years prior, and the most iconic moment from that match is Rijkaard spitting on Voller. But nothing tops the Irish feat of making it to the quarter-finals of a World Cup without winning a single match. Like I previously mentioned, they drew every group stage match, and when they faced Romania in the knockout rounds, they were only able to dispatch Agi's nation on penalties. Now from the quarters until the final match, there were a total of 8 matches. In those 8 fixtures, you only saw 2 where a team scored more than once. England and Cameroon finished 3-2 after extra time, but even then, 3 out of the 5 goals were scored courtesy of penalty kicks. The other one was a third-place playoff between Italy and England that finished 2-1 for the Italians, but then again, the winning goal was scored thanks to a penalty kick. If you exclude those matches, the story repeated itself. The outcome would either be a 1-0 win or a draw decided on penalty kicks. I mean, the semi-finals literally had the exact same outcome. Both Argentina and West Germany drew their matches 1-1 and incredibly beat their opponents on penalties with the same 4-3 result and the same order of penalties missed and scored. Fucking hell, I'm starting to think this was all scripted. The final itself was another embarrassment. In almost 100 years of World Cup history, this matchup is still widely regarded as the worst final of all time. The West Germany were levels above Argentina, so La Albiceleste, despite having Maradona on the team, couldn't do more than defending, fouling and crying to the referee. It backfired completely as Pedro Monzon, who hadn't even been on the field for over 20 minutes, was sent off after a hard tackle to Jurgen Klinsmann. West Germany weren't inspired that day though. Despite them showing a lot more quality than the Argentinians, they failed to create many goal-scoring chances, and it was only through a dubious penalty kick call that they were able to win the match. Otherwise, I can already imagine another goalless extra time and another penalty kick shootout. Still, in order not to sound too harsh, I will admit this World Cup had some good moments. Cameroon's iconic run to the quarters, their celebrations and Roger Mila's rise to stardom at the unlikely age of 38 years old, Toto Schillaci's becoming Italy's biggest attacking threat out of nowhere, and who could forget Gascoigne inspiring England to a good run, but ultimately leaving the stage with tears in his eyes without even realizing this would be his last World Cup. In my opinion, this tournament was a complete football dystopia where almost every bad scenario eventually came to life. There were 2.21 goals scored per match on average, which is the least in World Cup history. Ultimately, the better team won the tournament, but the ugly side of the game also triumphed. Teams played dirty, disregarded morals, and did everything in their power to avoid losing. Hooliganism was also very present in this tournament, despite FIFA's best efforts to avoid it. Hell, they even placed England in an island to keep the situation under control. But in the end, bad moments are necessary for growth. FIFA realized that people want goals and created a back pass rule, preventing goalkeepers from using their hands to play the ball when it has been deliberately kicked to them by a teammate using their feet. They also became more lenient with the offside rule, and 8 years later the World Cup format would be revamped to a 32-team group stage where only the top 2 from the 8 groups would progress. Italia 90 is still the worst World Cup of all time, but it was a collapse that the football world needed to witness in order to evolve. And that is it for the video. If you want to watch more World Cup rewinds like this, click here. Don't forget to leave a like so I know you want to watch more content like this, and subscribe to never miss the most interesting football discussions, stories and top 10 lists. Thank you for watching until the end, I appreciate you, and I will see you soon.